ready to build resiliency, create a healthy lifestyle, and overcome adversity with a warrior mindset. This is Define the Fight with Mariah Prussia.
Hey everyone, welcome back on this Monday morning. We've had a variety of different topics on Define the Fight, from uplifting in regards to picking you up from a mindset to personal interest stories. And today is going to be a little bit more of a challenging subject due to the fact that there's been a lot of different individuals in the last couple of years and clearly within their lifetime that have lost somebody who has been close to them, whether unexpected or expected. And today I'm very grateful for an individual who has such a heart of gold and has really faced adversity and looked it in the eye. Very close to me in regards to, actually related to me. His name is Randy Peterson. He is my cousin, and roughly 8 years ago, he was faced with a situation that no parent ever really wants to face, and that is losing his son at age 16 in an accident where he was hit by a drunk driver. And I think when it comes to grief, what people need to recognize is there isn't a timeline on completing grief. Sometimes it takes years, sometimes it never really goes away. And how do we fill that void, and how do we move forward in life knowing that we have left somebody behind? So Randy, thank you so much for joining me on Define the Fight today. How are you this morning?
Good. How you doing? Thanks for having me, Mariah.
You know, I've been watching you grow in different ways on social media. Clearly, we're not in the same neck of the woods anymore. And, you know, what have you transpired and shifted into in current days?
Well, currently we have a boutique in Wadena. We bought a lake house, 7 years ago now. And we decided we liked the lake house better than we liked the house in Ada. So we wound up moving out into the lake house. So we got a boutique in Wadena. Sarah, Carter's girlfriend, actually normally runs the store for us, but she actually just had her first baby here in March. So I've been working at that, and we also do an online business with paparazzi accessories. So we sell jewelry and different things like that. And let's see, about 2 years ago, we decided, well, a little over 2 years ago, about 2.5 years ago, we decided we wanted to maybe adopt a child, and we did the foster to adopt, and we adopted our son. We've had him since, well, we officially adopted him about just over a year ago.
A year ago today.
A year ago today, actually, was when the adoption actually came processed.
Dad's doing an interview right now, Emma.
And let's see, we do foster. We have 3 foster kids that live with us now, so we are busy. I'm almost 50 years old, and we decided to start over with little children again. We're crazy, but our youngest daughter, just went to prom on Saturday night, and so she's just about done with high school now. So yeah, we're busy. Life is busy now.
You've had a lot of different shifts, clearly. So adding, you know, what's great is that fostering. A lot of children need different individuals in their life that are going to provide love and shelter and really show lending that hand, because they're passed around a lot throughout the system. So kudos to you in regards to reaching out. I know that we're going into a tough subject, Randy. All right. So we're going to kind of dive back a little bit. And I want to talk about Carter because I know he was an amazing young man. He was a standout in sports, student, and just really a great community leader. Let's talk a little bit about Carter and clearly, you know, going back to that experience, no one really wants to ever relive that. So if you ever want to just stop and say, hey, Mariah, let's just let's hit the brakes. That's okay. But I'd like individuals to know more about Carter and what all happened and how you've persevered through grief.
Well, Carter, he had an amazing personality. Like he had one of those affection laughs, like those laughs, you know, somebody would laugh and he would laugh and everybody would just would smile. That's just the way he was. And he was always kind of, you know, he wasn't like a follower. He wasn't like totally a leader either. He just kind of did his own thing. He loved sports. He loved everything about like sports, football especially. That was his passion. But you ask him to do something, he usually would jump up and do it. He had so many friends, so many people that he helped out. so many different things that he always did. Sorry, we have little dogs too, so it's crazy here all the time. But he was an amazing person, amazing friend to a lot of people. And if those of you that don't know, like Carter had a girlfriend that they were like really close, and so it was kind of a rainy night. It was a Sunday night. If we could just jump right into it.
Go ahead.
And he was gonna go get his girlfriend, bring her back home, and they were gonna play basketball or something. I don't know. And his mom said, well, I don't know if it's such a good idea. Just why go there? Because she lived in Holly and we lived in Ada. It's about a 45-minute drive. And we're like, well, she's like, his mom's like, well, I don't know. If we really needs to go and do that. It's a Sunday night. He has school tomorrow and football game on, I think, Wednesday. We were coming into MEA weekend. And I was like, he'll be all right. So he went. They came back, and they were going to go earlier, but then it wound up raining harder, and he decided they wanted to wait till it quit raining or cut back on the raining. And he had went, dropped her off, and was on his way home. And I was on the fire department. I'd been on the fire department in Ada for 5 years, I suppose. And, you get that page at night, and first thing you always do as a parent is you always go and check that your kids are home. I knew he wasn't home yet. And the first thing I did was I got up, you run downstairs, and, it was a car accident. They said, where was that? You could hear it over the pager. And I was doing the math in my head, and I'm like, it was like 10:16, I think was the time, or right around there, 10:20. And you do the math in your head, and you're like, he should have been home by now. And I thought, he wasn't home yet. And I tried calling him. I go to the fire department, we get in the truck. Blaine Erickson was driving. And all the way to the scene, I'm calling, no answer. And then we get there, and there's 2 cars in the ditch. And Carter's I knew the rims of his tires. So his car was upside down, fully engulfed in flames. And I knew right then. And after that, I don't remember much. The fire chief, Steve Petrie, brought me home, and everybody, like the whole team, came over to the house. And that night was just a blur. But yeah, that's kind of what happened.
Did part of you know that it was him before you even got there, Randy? I mean, knowing, putting the math together, you're talking about, okay, I haven't heard from him. He's not answering. I'm assuming that there were so many different thoughts that were racing through your mind when you're on your way to the actual scene.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I called his girlfriend, and she's like, and of course I scared the crap out of her, and we were all panicked, but yeah, you kind of knew. You kind of had that feeling, like I said, when you're on the fire department and you get the call for a car accident, the first thing you always do is check and see if your kids are there. And if your kids aren't there, and you know about where your kids would be, it don't take much to put 2 and 2 together to figure that out. So.
Well, yeah. And clearly I know that you have a lot of support, or had a lot of support in that area, because every single person on the fire department or that was there for the emergency responders had to know that, well, we need to get him out of this situation. We need to get him to a different area, because I couldn't imagine coming up to a scene and knowing it was my child. I couldn't. Now I'm getting emotional, because with having 2 sons and knowing those different age groups, and any time that your child has the ability to drive, that there's always a risk. There's always a risk. And, we are going to go into a quick break here, Randy. But what most people don't recognize is, the details of the accident. It could have been preventable on the other person's part. And I know that makes it even more of a challenge, knowing that somebody made a choice that ended up taking the life of your son, in which you can never really get back. You know, Randy, we spoke briefly before the break about the accident, and I know with removing yourself from that situation that night and how cognitively our brain and our memory blocks different things that cause a lot of pain, where it becomes a blackout moment, and we don't ever really want to unlock that. Through healing, we do, but that all takes time. Following the accident, there's clearly a lot of different details then that start coming into play with following an investigation, so on and so forth. What did you find out, and how long did it take for details to be relieved to you or released to you pertaining to Carter's accident?
Well, let's see. Initially, the kid that wound up hitting Carter, he was driving a Dodge pickup. Carter was driving a Dodge Avenger, so T-boned him right behind the driver's door. The kid that was driving the pickup had told the cops that he was on Highway 9 and Carter was on the Borup Express. I don't remember the name of the highway. I should, all the years I've driven on it. But he lied. And I don't know if he lied or was confused or what. And I was like trying to explain to them, I'm like, because the cops come to my house afterwards, after the scene was done and everything else. They came and talked to me. And they said that Carter went through the stop sign and he had hit him. And I'm like, no, that's not what happened. I said, I seen the accident. I was there. You can tell what happened. You could tell where the car was in the ditch. I knew where Carter was coming from. I said, there's no way in the time that it took him from the time he left Holly to the time he got to Borup, there's no way he would have ever went that way, because he would have been coming. They said he came from the west. No, he wouldn't even, like my wife said, he wouldn't even know how to go that way. And so I'm explaining to them, and they're like, well, this is what happened. And I'm like, no, that's not what happened. And let's see. My brother-in-law was a cop at one time up in Grafton, and my wife has a cousin that's pretty high up in the highway patrol, and he knows Jesse Graybill. And Jesse does pretty much, if anybody heard Jesse Graybill, you know he does all the traffic incidents, all the accidents. So, Jesse's like one of the higher ups in the Detroit Lakes area, Minnesota Highway Patrol. And they did some he was going to come out and do tests and stuff like that. And it was released that it was Carter that went through the stop sign and the other kid hit him. And it's like, that's not what happened. So I was frustrated about it. And we did some pushing, and Jesse went out and ran his test. He said, yeah, no, Carter was on Highway 9. And it showed that Carter actually had slowed down to 28 miles an hour. And he had the right of way. He didn't have to stop. There was no stop sign for him or anything else like that. And the other kid, Ethan, the one that was driving the pickup, they showed that, what did they say the speed was, Jesse? 40 plus miles an hour when he hit him. And there's a stop sign there. Like, he just went right through the stop sign. His blood alcohol content at the time was 0.24, I think, like 3 times the legal limit. Now, I don't know if this is true or not. It was right during beet harvest. So there was a beet truck driver that actually had stopped and seen, what was going on. He said that he had seen the guy, like, in a panic, was outside running around his car and, like, throwing things in Carter's car, trying to make it look like Carter was the one that was drinking and everything else. So then, like, a week later, they had impounded the guy's pickup, and the impound lot of the sheriff's department let him go and get him and I think his dad or one of his relatives to get some items out of his pickup. And they tried taking out a bottle of alcohol that he had, because apparently, I don't know the whole story behind it or everything. But yeah, so he tried to blame everything on Carter. He tried to hide evidence. There was never a formal apology until he was forced to do a formal apology in court, or, never said a word to us or anything like that. So yeah, it was a struggle. I mean, that kind of where we go from there. I guess I don't know if I got off course or not a little bit. No.
The key thing is to understand is that, when there's accidents, clearly there's investigations that go on. So not only are you trying to figure out what all happened, you're trying to cope with all of the different emotions and shock that are faced right in front of you. So now you're also trying to fight and battle your way through to say, hey, hold on, my son, first and foremost, wouldn't be drinking and driving. But second of all, to try to pin an accident where his life was taken on him when it clearly wasn't his fault. So there's a lot of different emotions right there, and the fact that I'm sure your head was spinning on top of being exhausted, and then looking at, okay, what is next? You've got your wife, you've got your children, you're dealing with everyone's emotions and a sense of loss all at the same time. I like I said, I couldn't imagine being in your shoes, Randy, on what those phases were. But eventually, through the investigation, it came out that the other driver was the one that was at fault.
Yes.
So did he end up actually serving time, or what happened with the outcome of the trial?
Yes, he wound up getting charged, and he pleaded guilty to criminal vehicular homicide. And in the state of Minnesota, criminal vehicular homicide carries a maximum sentence of 10 years. He got 54 months, and he had to serve 38 or 36 of them. It was less than 3 years that he wound up serving.
Has he been in contact with you, or did he ever contact you and your family after?
No, not at all.
So looking at those pieces of the puzzle, I'm assuming there's clearly, when we look at emotions, there's resentment, there's anger. What are some of the things that helped you? What were some of those in the very beginning phase of grieving and understanding and clearly preparing for your son's funeral? What were those different areas of support that you and your family had during that time?
I mean, there was so much support. Like the community of Ada, Borup, Norman County West, Norman County East. Like Ada and West were always close together, anyways, with the kids. The community of Ada, especially, was amazing. But then I don't know. It's like it went viral. I was getting messages and phone calls from all over the world, and it was amazing. And it was. But you have to kind of take it with a grain of salt. You have to be able to handle it. You're kind of numb for about 2 weeks, especially the first week. You just kind of go through the emotions. You do what you got to do. You have to go in and you have to plan a funeral, and you have to pick a casket out, and you have to, like, where you're going to do the funeral at. And there's so much that goes into it. And then you know that somebody like Carter, there's going to be a lot of people at the funeral. And so we can't just have it at a small church. It has to be at a big church. And we actually talked about having it at the school, but it just didn't work out with the school. There's a lot of emotions. And right away, like I said, the first week or so, you're pretty numb. Life. Yeah, there's always people there. It's after everybody goes home. Everything is supposed to go back to normal like a week or two later, but it's the silence, it's the quietness, it's the not having 20 pairs of shoes in front of your door all the time, not having him storming down the stairs, or running out and getting his car, or going to football practice in the afternoon, or weightlifting in the morning, or video games in the afternoon, or that's just the little things.
The presence.
It's empty. It's just the large emptiness. There's a great big hole that's just not there anymore. Or the great big hole is there and he's not there anymore.
We spoke about the fact of having so much support in the first week or two leading into preparing for your son's funeral. But a lot of people don't recognize the fact of the silence that happens, and then all of the different emotions that rush in, like the floodgates open, and all of a sudden, okay, you're left with so many different things and you just don't know which way to turn. How did you and Chastity, I know you guys probably cope differently. How did each of you navigate the next step or the next phase of grieving?
I don't know. There's no real right way to grieve or wrong way to grieve. We just kind of leaned on each other. We knew we had, we still had the two kids, and plus we still had Sarah to try to help with that too. I don't know. We weren't. I'm not saying we were perfect. Nothing was perfect. Nothing worked. Emma was always the one that thought she had to be the tough one, so she didn't really know how to. She
Toughest 10-year-old girl.
toughest 10-year-old girl ever. Yeah. But you just have to figure out a way to make it work. Life still goes on. He still wants you to keep living. There's a lot of rough nights, a lot of times where, just sometimes you are great together, where you just kind of help each other, and sometimes it's all right to be alone and just have your moments and just let it go. You can't hold it in. Life is just it's gonna come back and get you if you try and hold it in. You're gonna have a lot of pent up anger, pent up emotion. You have to learn to live with the pain. I've joined some support groups, some parents that have lost, dads that have lost, dads that have lost children and stuff like that. We always say it's an amazing group to be a part of, but initiation is the one thing nobody ever wants to go through. And there are so many different ways that you can, learn to live with it. It doesn't get better. You just learn to live with it. The hole's always going to be there. The emptiness, the pain, and there's guilt. You have guilt and stuff like that you feel too. But you have to know that you're still here. You still have a family to provide for. You still have people that that you support and that depend on you. And you have to be able to allow yourself to smile again. I remember the first time we all got together and we went out to eat. And it was like a couple of weeks after Carter, or I don't even think it was that long after Carter had passed. Probably within the first month after Carter had passed. And I will never put down Ada. I love Ada. I love everything about it. I love everybody that was there. The support in the town was amazing. But you couldn't go to the grocery store. Everybody knew you. Everybody knows you regardless. And Emma used to give me a hard time, and Ada, like, we'd go for walks, and she goes, "Do you know everybody in town?" Because everybody would wave or say hi or stop and say hi, or it was unreal. Like, that's just the way it was. That's, if you've grown up in a small town, you know what small town living is. But anyways, you couldn't go to the grocery store without people. You'd get the look. And it's nothing against it. People don't understand how to. You know what I mean? They don't understand what you're going through.
They don't know how to approach you and to see how they're doing. Yep.
Yeah, all they feel is compassion, and so then if you go out to eat in your local town or your grocery store and you have a smile on your face or you laugh a little bit or whatever, you almost feel guilty. You almost feel like they're looking at you saying, "Well, really, their son just died. How could they possibly be happy or laughing or anything like that?" So we one day decided, we got to get out of town. We have to just go somewhere where nobody knows us. We actually went down to Moorhead, went to Buffalo Wild Wings, and we sat down. We had lunch, and we had a good time, and we laughed.
And saw people we knew there too.
And then we went to actually pay, and the waitress comped our meal because she knew who we were. And it's like, "How do you even know who we are?" She says, "Well, I've seen it on the news. I know who you guys are and stuff like that, and you guys deserve to have a good lunch." So you have to keep the memory alive, I guess is what I'm saying. That's one of your biggest fears as a parent, as time goes by, as years pass, that sometimes you forget the sound of their voice. You forget what their laugh sounds like. You miss that phone call, that they don't call and say, "How's it going?" Or, just, "Dad, I need something," or "I need some money," or or "I forgot my football jersey at home and I got a game tonight," or the little things like that you kind of forget about, or you don't forget about. You worry that you're going to forget about those things. So that's one thing that always kind of helped us through, is that we always knew he was always with us, in our hearts, in our memories. His friends, they're like our own kids. like I coached a lot of the kids through youth basketball and stuff with them, and they practically lived at our house. Yeah, and we still have a get together every year on Carter's birthday, where a lot of his friends come out to our place out here at the lake, and we got a pool out here, and we have beanbag tournaments and stuff like that. And they still come out every year as long as they can make it. And so you just have to learn how to live, lean on each other, be vulnerable. You have to be willing to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to not always be the strong one. And sometimes crying in front of your wife is not an easy thing for a guy to do. I do know the older I get, or I don't know what it is, I'm more emotional. We watch American Idol, and I tear up all the time. We go to the football games, and the national anthem comes on. I got tears running down my face. I mean, I turn into a big baby the older I get. I don't know.
I think we understand compassion more, and empathy starts leading in, and I can see that in my father as well. He's 72, where you see the attachment and the emotion, especially when it comes to grandkids. Then they start opening up a little bit more. But for navigating and the different things that you had said too is you still have to live life, but the biggest fear is losing the memory, and it's like keeping that memory alive. And clearly you're not, or missing the sound of the voice, the absence of the small things. And it's a great reminder for every single parent that might be listening right now at this moment. Is sometimes there's things that drive us nuts when we're at home with our children, whether what they say or what they're asking for, so on and so forth. But for us to remember that we would rather have those moments than not have them at all. It's very eye-opening listening to every single word that you're saying, Randy. I'm taking it hard because we have moments as parents as being completely fatigued, where we just want to sleep, or we just want to shut off, we want to disengage, or kids are fighting. You're like, please just stop fighting. But sometimes it's being able to just listen to them fight, to wrestle around and saying, okay, they're being kids, and thankfully they're still here. And for you, I know with your two other children, clearly you have more now. How did they work through some of their pain? Because I know you were working through yours, your wife was working through hers as well, and then paying attention to your children. That had to be extremely challenging because you're trying to stay and keep your foundation strong, but at the same point, you're still dying inside, and then watching their emotions come to the forefront. Did they go through counseling? Did you guys set up different support systems for them as well?
When, right after it happened and stuff like that, like my oldest, he lives in the cities, so he actually had come home. Right away, Emma, her thing, we moved out of Ada. We gave her the option. We said we could stay in Ada, or, we could go somewhere else so she can get a fresh start, because she was worried about going to school and being, Carter's sister. Now, we told her, I said, you do realize there's going to be kids in the school in Ada that will basically be your big brother in Ada. Nothing will ever happen to you in that town, I promise you. But if you move to a new school, nobody will know who you are. Nobody will know what you went through and stuff like that. Well, she wanted the new start, and she's strong. Emma kept a lot of things in over the years, and she always thought she had to be strong for us and try and be there for us. And that was just the way she is. I mean, that's just the way she always has. She's the type of person that has to take care of somebody all the time. And it ate at her, and it took a long time, and it just built and built and built and built. And she's in therapy now. She goes to therapy once a week. I think it's helped. I hope it helped. I'm hoping it's helping. It seems like it's helped. She says it does. We've seen a difference in her. She struggled. It's hard on the kids. Like my oldest Matthew, he's went through therapy. He's talked to psychiatrists and stuff like that. And that's just it. It's like people don't realize that the trauma that you go through and things like that isn't always instant. You'll have the initial shock, and there's things there's support groups, and there's all these different things that you can take advantage of right away. People don't realize that it's 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the road that sometimes that's when it hits you. that's when all the stuff that you kept bottled in for all these years comes up, and you thought you were good, and it comes up and gets you. You know, it's mental health is a crazy thing. It's a very it's always there. You know, the pain, the guilt, the grief, all the different emotions, all the different anger, you know, you don't always go through it right away, and sometimes you go through it again, and sometimes it just comes back and gets you. And like we said, I'm hoping that, you know, as a parent, you don't want to see your kids struggle, and you always think that you have to put on a big front, a brave front for them, and not let them see, you know, you struggle, or not let them see the emotions that you go through. But it's good for them to be part of it too.
I think it's good for them to see that their parents are also real and that they have emotion. And I think that also allows them the ability to share their emotions instead of bottling and, you know, shoving it into that suitcase, because eventually you can't shove any more in that suitcase before it bursts. In life, we look at what's going on and taking a deep breath and recognizing that someplace, someone always has it worse off than us. So take heart that everything in life is temporary, and making sure that you hold your children and your loved ones close, because you just never really know what tomorrow brings. And Randy, I appreciate you sharing so many different pieces, going back to that moment, talking about Carter's accident, but then also too, recognizing that mental health is real, and grieving and the different phases. Everyone is going to have a different level and a different experience, where some people will move through things fast, but yet it comes back later because they're just trying to push it to the side, where I just want to be normal again. And I don't know if normal is ever really truly possible after you've lost somebody that's close, where you create a new norm. And I think you and your family have done that by moving, right? Relocating, starting a new life, without letting go of the memories and the special moments that Carter brought to your guys' life. So what are some things, or what is one takeaway, or one thing that really, for you, that got you through those moments? And I know moments still come and go, but what was one thing that really stands out for you that was kind of a pivotal piece?
Like right after Carter died, we watched somebody had recommended the book The Shack. I don't know if you've heard of that. It actually wound up, they had a book out, and then they made a movie, and it's about I'm not going to get into describing the book or the movie. If you get a chance, watch it or read the book. It's really good. Like right after it happens, you kind of go through this whole, you're mad at God. You don't, you know, how can a God do something like that to us? But then you have to realize that God doesn't make things happen. He knows that they're going to happen, and he helps guide you through it. And we just know that there's always something there that'll help push us through, that'll help know that there's always something that we can give. There's always more we can give, that we believe that we will eventually see him again one day, and that, yeah, it sucks with him not being here, but we know that we have life, and there's more that we can still give, and our life isn't over. No matter how many times sometimes you feel guilty that we're here and he's not, but you have to figure out a way to make yourself get up each morning and find happiness, find joy in what you have, and not what you lost. Don't always dwell on what you lost, because there's so much in life that's still available for you, that you can still, that you still have to be happy for.
And you and your wife clearly are bringing happiness, joy, and love to the lives of many children. You had mentioned you have how many foster children that are now living with you?
We have one son that we adopted, and we have a 1-year-old that we foster, a 4-year-old, and a 17-year-old that we foster.
So the reality is this: even though Carter is not here, his spirit is still with you and with your family. And the lessons that he taught you in this lifetime, he's providing an opportunity for you and your wife to pay it forward, to share that, and bring light and love to the lives of many that may not have had the opportunity to experience. And speaking personally, Randy, watching you on social media throughout the years, you have handled adversity with so much grace, showing so much support for the community that clearly was there to help lift your family up in troubling times, but then also to being there to support your children. And like you had mentioned, there's always one child that is the stubborn child, that is the strong one, where they don't want to show emotion, where they're like, I've got this, I have to be strong for the other. But for parents, really pay attention to your children's mental health. It shows up in different signs. We look for different things where this is what it should be, but each child has different ways of showing that they need help. And clearly, I know that you recognized in your daughter and then in your son too, whether they asked or if they didn't ask, you guys took that step to make sure that they were being helped and supported in their own grieving process. Did you notice different things that stood out for your children that was different?
We didn't. We noticed that, sometimes they had issues, not issues, I guess, but there was times where Emma, as she got older, started struggling with different things, and it was kind of overwhelming. She had told us, she eventually came and told us, hey, I need to talk to somebody. I need to go in and we need to figure out what's going on. I need somebody to talk to. And we're like, okay, let's do it. Let's get it done, So we got it. She has somebody that she talks to now, and I think she's doing great with it. And it's not a fix. It's not a cure. It's not a Band-Aid. It's not something that's just going to magically go away, or, you're going to go to the doctor and they're going to fix you. It's something that's going to be with you for the rest of your life, and you have to, but at least they help you talk through it, and don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to talk to somebody. There's always somebody out there that will listen and will maybe give you steps on what you can do to get through it.
Which is great advice for a lot of people that may be suffering right now with different things within their life. So Randy, I appreciate you coming on, being vulnerable to share your story. And I appreciate all that you're doing also with changing the lives of the young ones that you're fostering as well.
Well, thank you for having me on. And yeah, Chastity told me, she goes, I have to help as many people as I possibly can. I told her, so you can't help everyone, but she has this idea in her head that she thinks she can help everybody, and she tries her best to do that. So,
well, you clearly are, and it takes one life. Well, and it takes one life, and then it's like a seed. They help spread through other people. So thank you so much for joining me on the Define the Fight. So if you're currently in a fight, define that fight and know that it really, it may be hard at this moment in time, but the key thing is to move forward and lean into your faith versus your fear. Have a great Monday.